Hello guys, welcome to Sunday Shorts. So tonight we are live on your screen with our new episode. The topic for today's episode is future of startups in COVID-19 pandemic situation. All of us are actually struggling. So the topic is pretty fine with my audience who are going to join. I would like to welcome all my viewers. Feel free to be part of the discussion and ask questions in between the show. And also you will get time to ask your questions in the end of the show. So today I have guests joining from different parts of India. Those who have already built startups, ran many startups, now also started investing in startups. So big and experienced names from different industries, Mr. Ganesh, Mr. Hitesh, and Mr. Amardeep. I welcome you all, sir. Uh, just kind of giving you the small briefing about our guest. So, Mr. Ganesh, Dr. Ganesh Natarajan is founder of 5F World. It's a platform dedicated to investment and mentoring of startups, skill platforms, and social enterprises. Ganesh led two corporate success stories with distinction: APTECH from 91 to 2001, and Zensar from 2001 to 2016. Uh, he was appointed as executive director on the board of Fulcrum Digital. Uh, Incorporation Ganesh is a member of the Chairmen's Council of NASSCOM and has been chairman of NASSCOM and NASSCOM Foundation. The second guest in our list is Mr. Hitesh. Hitesh is the founder, CEO of OnSpawn, which is now Asia's biggest platform for sponsorships. He is a mentor for multiple startups and engages in many high impact workshops. I just wanted to welcome Amardeep again on our show. He has around 15 plus years of experience. He is a serial entrepreneur, very big name in marketing, and very famous in corporate industry. So I just wanted to welcome you all, guys. Thank you so much for being part of this show. Uh, so let's begin the show by asking you the first question of tonight. That and begin with Amardeep. Okay, is this a good time to invest in any startup idea, Amardeep?
So this, as they say that Warren Buffett had a saying that invest in Warren Buffett or somebody. Okay, everything gets attributed to Warren Buffett these days. So he had a saying that you should invest in markets when there is blood on the street. So that's a very popular adage. Now the thing is that, and I'm a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer. I believe that the ideas for the next decade, and this is the right moment at 2020, there is a decade shift which is happening. So the ideas for the next decade are going to definitely come from this epidemic. I also believe that earlier the epidemics were kind of thought as cleansing of the weaklings in the Vikings era, and that's how it used to happen. That epidemics used to clean out and kill those who cannot survive, who are weak, who are not strong. Okay, I also feel the same is going to happen for the companies. I don't hope it to happen for humans. I hope it to happen for companies. Those who are weak will definitely, and those who survive this will come out much better. There are a few things which I have spoken about in a few of my earlier interviews, and on the same question. I think a lot of startups now need to start giving weightage to something called catastrophe preparation. And a lot of startups, they have been running on this extended leeway by investors, that whatever happens, if they burn out too much cash, all of that, somebody will save them. I think that mentality has to go away. A startup needs to learn that how it is going to manage its cash flows and how it is going to manage something like this kind of a catastrophe. I think this is going to be very critical, and there are multiple things which are going to kind of come up. One of them is catastrophe insurance. Other is having a catastrophe 12-month kind of a salary payout, putting it somewhere safe in the bank, and so on and so forth. I think some of these ideas need to mature, which were already there. These ideas used to exist 20-30 years back. They just kind of lost relevance in the last 20-30 years. I think those ideas will again be mooted. So definitely a very good time to do startups, but with a few back of the mind thoughts as to how you're going to run it.
Would like to take views from Ganesh as well and Mr. Hitesh one by one. Yeah, Ganesh, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And I kind of agree with Amardeep that this is probably the right time to be very judicious, but certainly look at startup investing. Just as a background, we have directly invested as 5F World in 12 startups, 5 of which we now own majority. And there is another 2 platforms. One is Crosspan Ventures and the other is One Crowd, where I am a general partner. And through those, another almost 17 companies. And if I give you a snapshot of these 29 companies, 3 are dead because they were investing clearly in travel and various areas which are completely over. And we have told them that, look, you might as well shut down for some time. Nothing is going to happen. 14 really thriving because they've managed to pivot their model and they know exactly what Amardeep said, that look, what succeeded till November of 2019 will not be what will succeed for the next 5 years. So these guys, we've actually spent literally like 3-hour sessions with each one of them. And we know they will succeed because their model has been now adapted for the new area. And essentially what we're saying is any startup to be successful, I mean, the logical thing is you must have a 12-month runway in terms of cash. And we're trying to ensure all of them have that. It's going to be slow in any case. But more important, I think we have to be able to address what will be the future expectations of customers, whether it is consumers or it is businesses, be able to not only create solutions or pivot your solutions towards that, but also make sure that you're communicating that message extremely well. And my belief is that even the 12 neutral ones that we have in our portfolio, I think they'll all get there. These 14 are very successful. And as I said, the 3 hopefully that we've asked them to kind of go slow will come back. So clearly, is it a time to invest in startups? Absolutely, yes. Is it a time to throw money around? Absolutely no. So you have to be very judicious about what you invest, and how much you invest.
Yeah, Hitesh.
Well, that's actually a great thought coming from the investor perspective. Now, when we were doing our graduation and studying the famous books, there was a book by Kotler which used to say, you need to segment the market and prioritize your segmentation and then position your product. And we used to think that it doesn't happen because by the time we enter the market, that part is already done. The consumer behavior has been established. Someone has already decided that this is luxury, this is not luxury, etc., etc. Here is an opportunity where we can do that from scratch. Here is an opportunity where a consumer is saying, I'm not sure anymore. The consumer buckets have changed dramatically. There's no longer a urban poor. There's no longer a SEC, ABC. There's access versus not access. There is category A, category B, category C based on the government definition of how accessible you are. Suddenly, access is more important than pricing. I remember having this conversation with my e-commerce friends about a couple of years back that, pricing changes everything. Who of us is actually asking for the price of any product we are buying right now? So is it changing us as humans? No, it's not. But it has got us to a situation where we can redefine how markets are structured. And a lot of startups, and let's leave the startup for a side. Let's talk about businesses. Businesses have always strived upon the right people addressing the right buyer at the right price. And I think now is the time to start from scratch and re-establish that. So as Ganesh very categorically mentioned, that there are some sectors which will not be impacted dramatically and some sectors which are practically non-existent for the next couple of months. But apart from that binary sort of differentiation, I think now is the time where everyone is at the same pace. There's no one who is having an undue advantage of having existing customers. I know huge almost unicorn level startups who don't have a customer right now, who are struggling to just retain the sort of top of mind recall for people like us, and they're doing it a good job at that, right? So when an external avalanche hits you, you save yourself. You decide that, okay, now I cannot any longer actually look for a runway which is based on a customer perception pattern. I can change the perception. There are people I know who launched designer masks. Louis Vuitton launched a designer mask a month back. So what that means is that perceptions are changing and changing really fast. startups actually get an undue advantage compared to the huge corporates who will take a lot of time to absorb this. So most probably in 3 months, we'll not be differentiating them as startups and corporates. We're talking about companies. And to answer you in a single statement, this is the best time ever to do anything new, because the consumers are more than happy to absorb anything that's coming to them.
Okay, so I heard, I mean, this is the right time to invest, but you need to choose the right sort of industries. Okay, that is you guys are saying. Okay, so do you guys see any positive things about the crisis? Right from Ganesh sir. Okay, please.
See, to answer this question, you have to understand how the crisis happened. And if you read some of the economists, today everything is blamed on COVID. It's almost as though the world was this perfect Garden of Eden. Everybody was singing and dancing. The angels were in heaven. But the reality was that even towards the end of 2019, you had some big problems happening in the world. One of my good friends is Tom Friedman, who wrote World is Flat. And in fact, Tom is speaking on Monday in another session we're doing. And if you ask people like Tom Friedman, it's very disappointing the world by how the world has become insular. It's not only China, it's Russia. I'm sorry to say that it's even India to a certain extent. Of course, the US, where barriers have been very, very strong. So in a situation like this, we also found that, for instance, you all know the situation where President Trump actually said, okay, we want the malaria medicine from India, and said, no, I threaten to kind of do something if it don't happen. So I'm saying this is a very divisive world we were entering into. Come COVID, two things have happened. The positive that has happened is that everybody was generally talking about digital transformation. Karenge, we've done cloud, we've done mobility, etc., etc. And suddenly digital came and hit you smack in the face. Okay, everybody today is on a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams or a Facebook or whatever. And today we're finding that it's almost the other way around. Every company we talk to is saying, oh, digital though we have done. And I think the opportunity and what I'm really excited about is this is the time for people to understand that the world can be a more collaborative place. In spite of what politicians tell you, in spite of what other people are doing, you can still collaborate with your customers, your consumers, etc., and you can really, really leverage the power of digital. And digital, as I said earlier, is not just cloud and mobility. It's predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics. How do you use artificial intelligence and machine learning better? How do you explore the power of mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality? And this is what I'm excited about. That if people really now understand that the collaborative world of the future will not just be by people like you and me sitting in restaurants, sitting in pubs, but thinking of all kinds of ways in which we can interact, we can have fun with each other, meeting occasionally, not meeting, but still collaborating all the time. I think there's a great opportunity here. So I'm very excited that what we always expected would happen slowly is now happening at breakneck speed. And people who leverage the power of digital, whether it's digital India, whether it's digital societies, whether it's digital companies, will really leverage. I mean, if I get time later, I'll talk a little bit about digital in the social sector. Even there, we are excited. In fact, we are pivoting our entire model of a complete social transformation towards digital. And I think that is most exciting, Suraj. And I think people who get that agenda will really be successful in the future.
Amardeep, would you like to add some points with what Ganesh sir is saying?
I think Ganesh sir has given very, very good insights here, and I share I share some of the sentiments, and I'll talk about a couple of things which I've been working on in this area. So as you know, Suraj, I teach at almost all major colleges across the country and a few of them globally. And digital transformation has been an area which I have been trying to learn a bit for the last 12, 13 years now. Digital transformation is something which was always the need of the hour, and it was coming. And as Ganesh sir has pointed out, it is kind of going to ramp up even faster. But I would like to take this opportunity today to talk about the digital transformation 2.0 framework, which we have been trying to develop. And I would like to simplify the whole thing, so that companies at large, especially the smaller ones, and even at larger company level, from a top management level perspective, what does digital transformation mean? Okay. And I've tried to put it, in three three buckets. Digital transformation is re-envisioning your business in three parameters, and those parameters are: one, digital technology; two, digital marketing; and three, digital analytics. These are three broad parameters in which you start re-envisioning your business. Now, in digital technology, you can begin with simpler technologies. For example, you can if you're building an e-commerce, you can talk about Magento. If you go slightly deeper, you can get into machine learning via Python. You can get into artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. So, building the right tech stack which can connect you to the digital world. So this is one. The second thing is digital marketing. How you, and marketing is true for all kinds of companies. Okay. So, and it is both internal and external marketing. So marketing to your own people, communicating to your own people, and communicating to your customers. uh, and it is true for both B2B and B2C, and as I talked about, internal employees. So talking about uh, how do you use basic things, how do you use emailers more effectively, how do you use WhatsApp notifications and app notifications more effectively, how do you use a combination, a behavioral targeting on your website, or on your app. Does your app respond to specific challenges onto a customer is facing automatically? Does it have intelligence built there? And then taking it on to more deeper forms of marketing. So for example, search engine optimization, search engine marketing, wherever applicable. But having a very clear now thought around it, that one has to integrate these kinds of marketing with the right set of technology. Finally, and very, very importantly, digital analytics. Building a good analytics, and on top of it, business intelligence or digital intelligence kind of an engine. So both collecting the primary data, which itself was not happening, and which I must tell to companies now that it is very, very easy to collect this data. Earlier, you would find it very difficult because data collection processes are very, very. Now it's very easy. How many people filled the leads? Where did they come from? Which IP address did they come from? How much time did they spend on the website? All of these can now be linked to each other, and one can draw very, very meaningful insights. First, collecting this data not from one source, having a tool like Google Analytics. I don't want to name. I generally don't like to name tools because it becomes endorsement. But having say simpler tools, and also having log level tools. So basically, getting deeper into your website and collecting log data, putting them onto an analytics tool, so that you have very good data matching, you have very good data authenticity. And then finally putting a data business intelligence engine on top of it, and constantly collecting insights to basically correct two things: one, digital technology, and other, digital marketing. If you keep on correcting these two, you will have a common company, a common OTA, can turn into a make my trip if it does these three things. That's the model, that's the idea. And I think every company, be it a pawn shop owner now to a Microsoft, everybody has to now get into this bandwagon of digital transformation. And as I told you, that because analytics is such an important part of it, it is an iterative bandwagon. So you get into it and you keep improving on it. So what is relevant tomorrow may not be relevant after 6 months or after 1 year. And you should get the signals fast, and you should be ready to change. So yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Okay. So my next question to you guys is that what are the biggest challenges right now for the startups? Because the startups are not thinking, I mean, in a broad way. Okay. Because I was just going through a survey, and it was showing that 31% of Indian startups choose layoffs as a means to reduce cost in this crisis, and around 13% or something like that 13 point something, have chosen to close off their company. Those who had just started in last 3 years. Okay, so what are the biggest challenges for the startups which have just started, and how should they overcome it? Ganesh sir, please put some highlight.
No, I mean, I think the biggest challenge for startups, it all depends on how they start, because I am not a great fan of everybody and his brother suddenly trying to become a startup. Because unfortunately, in the first phase of Startup India, it happened that, somebody, got some 20 lakhs of funding from friends and family, decided to set up a startup, which is not a good way of doing it. I think the biggest challenge for startups even then was, have you got a really great defensible idea, which is unique? I mean, not the only one in the world, but where you can really succeed. Because everybody got carried away by Flipkart and Oyo rooms, etc., and said, "Oh my God, if copycat things can work, I mean, we can also do something in e-commerce." So there was a huge wave of e-commerce startups, and naturally, 99.9% of them collapsed because there was nothing new about it. So I think the first thing you have to do is the uniqueness of the idea is extremely important to think about, much more so now. I mean, going back to what Hitesh said and what Amardeep said also. And the second, of course, is, do you have not just you and your dog, but do you have some people with you who kind of collaborate, who can kind of complement your own strengths? Very, very important for a reasonable team to come together. And third and most important is, have you thought through your capital window? In fact, the first time my wife and I dabbled in startups was 10 years ago. She was getting a huge salary in HSBC's global resourcing. I was in Zensar. And she said, okay, maybe we should do, there is a huge need for very specific skilled people to enter the workforce, and especially corporate supported skills. So go out and make corporates your customers, and then skill people who have a guaranteed job at the end of it. And we actually floated the idea. And even while she was still working in HSBC, I mean, Intel, Helion, and Cisco Ventures came forward, and we had got ourselves assured many, many crores of funding before she even resigned from her job. Okay, now why I'm saying this is, so then of course the skills market went for a complete toss. If some of you look at the skills startups between 2008 and 2020, you will find that even some of the very big companies which started in skills shut down their companies. Okay, and I will not name them, but if you look at research, you will find out we are still there. Global Talent Track is probably one of the leaders in the market, has trained over 2 million people, worked with all the large corporates, purely because her team was fantastic. Her own background and her own idea was to turn the market from training people and then placing them to actually securing the jobs and then training them for those jobs. And the third one was that she had the capital tied up. So I'm just giving you an example of that. But if you follow that adage, I mean, if you follow that maxim, you will find that it will work for you all the time. So don't be in a tremendous rush. Don't say, oh my God, abhi kuch karna hai. I was talking to a very large company's top management team the other day. And the only advice I gave them is, if you get fired from your job, okay, because whatever, your company doesn't want you, whatever, don't say, I'll do a startup. But that is the worst way. You're already injured, you're already kind of hurting, and then you say, I'll do a startup and recoup everything. It's not going to happen. So do it when you have a clean mind, when you see the opportunity, when your creativity can get converted to innovation, and then make that happen. So if you keep those three things in mind, there has to be a strong idea, there has to be a good team, and there has to be a capital horizon that you see at least for the next 12 to 18 months. You won't go wrong. But if you miss out on any one of the three, I've not seen anybody succeeding.
So Hitesh, what are the challenges do you think that startups are facing right now?
So, a fantastic journey, Ganesh, especially from I've seen a lot of skill-based startups who sort of lost track, and you're right. But I'll come to the fundamentals. I think you started by saying that your wife was HSBC, and by the time her resignation was actually printed, there were a couple of crores in the account, which I think is sort of very aspirational. And I'll come back to the concept, right? So what differentiates Amardeep and me and Ganesh sir right now? Who of us is a startup founder? Who of us is not? Are independent consultant startups? Are people who sort of are taking a break a startup? Are people who are consulting for startups a startup? The point is very simple. If I can let go of that comfort of a regular work profile to a compensation window, and it happens regularly, I am an employed person, else I'm a startup. But going back to the question which Suraj you asked, is that the challenges and how startups who are laying off people, who are putting people on furloughs, who are basically giving salary cuts, etc. So I think it's a very real situation. As Ganesh also mentioned, that more than 99% of startups end up collapsing. And these are reasons, obviously, these are smart people. Startups takes a much more grit than actually joining an organization. It takes a lot more courage also. Idea and innovation and processes. I'm a huge believer of processes. I believe that the best startups in the world were never the innovators. They were actually executed the best. So, but I'll leave that conversation for later. But the idea is that there are a lot of people who have done a phenomenal job, who were on the way to create history by the number of, like, you look at Uber, who was actually like pushing the envelope on number of drives. You look at people like Amazon, who were making sure that people were exhausted by the deliveries, but the deliveries were not enough. There were people in cosmetics, there were people in pharma, e-com, who were doing stuff which was unheard of, like making telemedication legal. Now we are talking about alcohol getting e-commerce was never possible. So stuff is happening. The point is, this is not the time where startups can change, especially change domains. So some startups who like, and let's put some perspective to it. There are two kind of startups right now. One who have got the advantage of the macroeconomic trend. So education technology companies, education companies, any company which is based on you facing the screen and doing something, health tech, and broadly a bit of essential services. Everyone else is suffering. So if you ask me that, if let's say I'm a founder of a gymnasium chain, which there is one, whose entire set of 200 plus gymnasiums are off now, or I'm the best travel tech startup in the country who was recording multiple million transactions every hour, and I was the poster boy of the country till about 3 months back. I'm not doing a single reservation. I was running my planes at 90% plus capacity and optimization, and now my planes are grounded. Can I optimize and change? I don't think so. The resources remain the same. So I always say it's a situation where there's a P&L, and anything above the L has been wiped out. So all your costs are there. Your office still stays. Your employees still stay. Your cost of development still stays. But your revenue sources are zero. So with this real situation, we could be very philosophical about it. But being a startup, what we face a challenge is that today is 10th, or what is it today? Yeah, okay, those are the times, right? So I'm worrying that after 15 days, how will I prepare for the next compensation payout to my employees? And I have already done it twice with almost zero revenues. And that's a real problem. I have those embarrassing conversations with the landlord of my office who wants to follow up on the rent. And the guy who gave me broadband to my office, I've not used a single kilobyte out of that, but I have to pay for that. And these are real payments, real money going out to real people. And although there's a lot of softness in the conversation, I'm not getting threatening calls, but I'm getting calls. So my point is, think about a startup, and if anyone in the startup ecosystem who is not obnoxiously funded says that they are sitting on a cash reserve of more than 8 months, I will laugh at them. And we are already at the 3.5th month. And I don't know that will I be back to the normal in 8 months. So we are not thinking about how much money we can save. We are thinking about how much money we need to save to sustain this depth and actually go to the real optimal scenario again. And this is real. So does it mean I'll have to let go of people? Maybe. There are some people who, and it's, you don't, and I've worked in enough companies of 1,000 plus people to tell you that letting go is not because people are a problem. Letting go is always because business is a problem. And business is a factor of what you do internally and externally. If I'm not getting contracts, I can't get people. It's very simple. It doesn't mean that the person is bad or good. If you happen to be in the project which is not getting enough dollars, then you have to get off it. Now, startups have been on the receiving side of almost every institutional policy in the world right now. So if I have to hire someone, I have to hire at par with a Zensar or a Infosys, because they are the ones who are benchmarking it, right? If I have to get paid by a corporate, I have to get paid as per a startup who is funded so he can discount the payouts. Why do I deserve to get a dollar rate which a bigger company can get? So we were anyways on a skill quiz, and that's why you need a lot of capital to sort of bridge that gap. And the assumption is that in some time that capital will just make sure that the optimal is achieved. So startups are struggling. The struggle is absolutely real. Uh, Amardeep mentioned this is a great time to invest, but data speaks otherwise. Angel investing is zero in the last 2 months on record. Angel investing, Series A has not happened. There are only two Series C which have been recorded. Both of them were transactions of January. So yes, humanly I say it's correct, but no venture capital, no private equity is investing their own funds, and the fund of funds, which is the so-called LPs and the capital owners, are not comfortable. And let's face it, when people tweet, the stocks fall. So we are not living in a rational world. We are living in a world which is driven by emotion. You may have enough capital, but when you're not sure that if in 2 months I'll be able to get on the ground or not, then capital is not for investment, that's for protection. So that's the real situation out there. We are seeing it like there.
So Hitesh, I would comment on, you know,
Amardeep, I just want to ask you another question, okay? And I want you to answer or counter Hitesh's point, okay, after with that question only, okay? Because the question is related to the investing thing. So how this crisis affects the funding round currently underway or closed? Yeah, I mean, what are the challenges faced by the investors? Because I heard many things from the entrepreneur himself. Okay, so add some points and also answer this question. And after that, Ganesh, please add on some more points. Yeah.
So I would say a couple of things, Hitesh. You know, the struggle is definitely real, but you need to understand there are a couple of things at play here. One is that there is this entire situation which has been created by government lockdowns, and you must discount government lockdown. So one is government lockdown, and other is demand slowdown because of COVID stuff. So the current shutdown which you are seeing is more like demonetization, sucking out all the money from the market, and hence there is no demand. But that lack of demand was basically artificially created. It was not. So you must discount this period till the time the lockdown is over. This is one. Okay, then the real play of COVID begins, and India has been particularly harshly hit. If you look at stock markets outside India, they're largely not that badly affected. In fact, South Korea, Japan, they're working perfectly fine. There is no difference. South Korea just conducted an election, a national election with ballot paper. Okay, so you can imagine things are as good as normal there, and the economy is also normal. In India, we are feeling more pinch of it because of this national lockdown which has been imposed on all of us who want to work, who want to go outside. I know a lot of people who just do not give a care about it, because they say that 99% of the chances are that I'm going to be fine. If I am below 50, below 60, I don't need to care. I just do not need to care. There's definitely a chance that I can die, but that chance is as good as dying from influenza or dying from flu. So it is as good as that. When you look at the numbers sharply, I think this is one thing, and that is weighing very heavily on people. And hence you may see that some of the funding rounds, etc., they are being considered in that way. This is one point. The second point is, and I will come to this point on how should how should you treat employees at this point of time, and that's a very critical point. And so there have been a few Harvard studies on this after the 2008-9 crisis in US, and they studied companies, the way they treated their employees at that time, and what happened to those companies over the next 5 years. And couple of learnings which came out of that, and I'll just share. See, one thing is that you need to figure out a scenario that can you survive for next 6 months or 12 months. If you cannot survive for 6 months or 12 months, you must shut down today. This is one. Okay, there's no point thinking about it. Then restart after 6 to 12 months. If you have the cash for the next 6 to 12 months, okay, then take into account that who are your most productive employees, and sit down with them, make a list of them, and only talk to them. So cut deep and cut once. If you want to remove people, it should be done in one shot. And then this thing should not come in your mind for 6 months that I have to remove somebody, okay? Or 12 months. As the longer the horizon, the better. Because that improves productivity and that kills negativity within the organization. Third thing is that for certain sectors like travel, for example, which are most badly impacted, I think the the idea is that you should be ready to take long furloughs. A lot of companies in India, what they're trying to do is they're trying to put 25% deduction, 50% deduction. It has been proven by research that this does not work. It demoralizes people, and it simply makes, and because you are making the same yardstick for everyone in the company, so the most productive guy who's basically running the company, who's bringing the max revenue, why would he take 25% cut or 50% cut? It doesn't make sense. What you can do, however, is that employees whom you do not need, you can ask them to go on furlough. Now, furlough is a difficult concept for India. Indians do not understand furlough. Basically, if I am not making you work, and genuinely don't make them work, even from home. Give them a 15-day, 20-day, 30-day furlough. It is very difficult for Indians to understand. A lot of Indian companies are facing this problem. They're not able to give furlough to their employees. So there are now a lot of mechanisms through which you can control cost, you can keep the employee morale high, and so on and so forth. And one should employ some of these.
So I'll tell you what we are doing. So just to quickly, I think, so what we are doing is we have not established a furlough. What we have done is we have reduced the base compensation of people and increased the variable dramatically, which means that there are conversations happening, there are deals happening, but let's say for $1 earned, you were getting 10 cents out of this, you'll probably get 50 cents now. So the objective is that if you, and I think it achieves the same, and we tried the furlough, but although a lot of my friends in India have implemented that, it's fairly difficult to explain. So what we have done is we have reduced the base compensation, which means that the variable which was there earlier has been sort of adjusted to a payout, which was assumed to be done earlier. And the actual payout can be higher than what you were earlier making if the results are achieved. And obviously the results are subject to internal and external parameters. And the second thing is of the letting go. I think like a lot of companies have done that. And I think it's not what you do, it's how you do, it's important. And I love how Airbnb has done it, how respectfully they have sort of let go of people. And there's a positive post-transaction sentiment from the same people. So I agree that these are sharp, immediate decisions which have to be taken. There are multiple researches which says that reduction is morale reduction, and a decision means that, okay, it was not beyond my point, and people are in that frame that they know that it will happen, and it's just that the more you keep them in the lookout, the more challenging it becomes. So we have done that internally, just to add to what Amardeep mentioned.
No, I think both of you fantastic points, because if you look at what Amardeep said, I completely agree with you, Amardeep, that the worst thing you can do is say that, oh, I'm taking a 35% cut, guys, so everybody else gets a 25% cut. I mean, quite honestly, if I'm a high performance employee and my owner tells me I'm taking a 35% cut, my first response would be, to hell with you, man. I mean, I'm worried about my salary. So I would completely agree that there's no point in just making dramatic statements saying everybody's taking a cut. If you can afford to pay the person in April and May, I think you should continue. If you can't, it's probably a good, I mean, furlough, I completely agree with you, Hitesh, not very understood here. I mean, 2 of my American clients have given long furloughs, but don't forget, America has something called PPP, which is the payroll protection program. So 80% of the money comes back from the government. India, we have no security net whatsoever. So somebody who's paying EMIs, paying house rent, paying electricity, suddenly you say 3-month furlough, even that's tough. So, I mean, it's a clear message saying, boss, if you get another job, please take it. Right now, you can put it on your biodata, you're employed by me, and hopefully I'll take you back. But having said that, I completely agree with what Hitesh said, that no, it's bad to deny bonuses that were earned last year. I think that's unethical. A lot of people say, oh, no, now we won't give the bonuses. It is okay to deny an increment which was maybe due in April and say, boss, we'll wait till October, or we'll wait till July, or we'll wait till things get better. But it's good to, I mean, I think I like your idea also, Hitesh, of saying that maybe you should variabilize some portion of the salary, which is perfectly fine. We're just saying if the company does great, if the next 9 months are so great that all of you make money, hopefully you make 20% higher than last year. It actually almost obviates the need for an increment because you're actually putting the increment into the variable. So I think that's a great point. And going back to what Hitesh, you said some time back, maybe if I gave the impression that all is glory in the startup industry, I apologize, because you're absolutely right. 90% of the startups, I mean, that we are seeing every day are crying. I mean, because they haven't really planned for the 6 to 12 month keep your capital kind of thing. That's true. I mean, I can talk theory, but in practice, it's not easy. And unfortunately, investors are also in a blue funk. The investors are saying that, look, it's a buyer's market. Let's let the startups breathe a little more. And what I was going to invest and get maybe 20% equity for 2 crores, I'll probably get 40% equity for 1 crore. I mean, investors are as greedy as they come. It's true for all of us. Having said that, I mean, just this morning we finalized a 15 lakh investment in a company which has been running for 2 years, and the guy needed the money. And I think he said, look, we'll give you the same deal as we gave last time, no increase of valuation. We said that's very fair. So there is still investment going on, but this man has completely pivoted his model. I mean, he not pivoted is too strong a word, but adapted his model to the new reality. So I'm saying we have to be cautious. Yes, I agree with you, Hitesh, that look, startups are in a tough soup at this point of time. Yes, we have to be practical about, we're not trying to be idealistic saying, oh, don't worry, I'll pay you salary for the next 12 months, irrespective of what happens. But in all that, if we can be sensitive, if we can put ourselves in the employee's shoes and not in the owner's shoes and say what is really going to pain him and what is really going to excite him, I think we can make that happen. So I think we have to be practical, but I really love this discussion because it's very practical on what startups should do, not only should have done, but should do probably in the next 3, 4, 5 months. You're absolutely right. I mean, you talked about South Korea, Amardeep. The fact of the matter is yesterday, South Korea has experienced a revival of COVID. The fact of the matter is in China had a small second wave. And the real fact of the matter is we just don't know whether in India we are in for a V recovery, a W recovery, an L-shaped recovery, which can slowly recover over the next 9 months. So we better be prepared for all eventualities.
So our viewer Manish is also saying something. Ganesh, to you, that totally agree with Ganesh. Promoters also have equity, and if listed companies, they will still create wealth. No point in holding bonus payment. Would you like to say something, Ganesh, to Manish?
No, I'm just saying, you're actually, Manish, you're saying what I said. And you're absolutely right. I'm just saying that, look, I mean, I'm very clear about the ethics in this. If somebody earned money for the financial year, April to March ending 2020, you have to pay him that money, guys. You can't say, oh, now suddenly we have a problem, so I won't pay you last year's dues. That's what I talked about bonus. But at the same time, you have to be practical. Now, practical doesn't mean a lot of people come and tell me, oh, all the employees came and told me that let's all take a 40% cut. If I believe that, I'll believe anything. Okay, seriously. Nobody's really coming and telling you, please give me a cut because I love the company. You have to collaboratively say that. I mean, that's why I like the variable idea. So I think let's be practical, let's be fair, let's be honest. People must trust you after the crisis. Otherwise, you've lost it.
Just to add on, Suraj, on the just to add on to Ganesh's point there.
Yeah, sure, Amardeep. Yeah.
Because one, as he pointed out, that one, investors are getting better deal. Okay, so now you can go and negotiate, and you can negotiate much harder, much better. Word of caution there is, just do not negotiate so much that the entrepreneur loses interest in his own business. Okay, so that is one thing. Okay, the second is, as the question pointed out, the investment can also be made in some of these listed companies which are available at beautiful prices right now, and they're not going to go down. Okay, no matter COVID or anything. And I'm a positive guy. Let me say something here. So my view on COVID is that in almost all situations it has been proven that it cannot kill more than 5%. Somebody is saying the actually killing rate is 0.1%. Somebody is saying 5-6%. Okay, that's where the story is. So the one thing can be said with certainty, that 95% of the chances are that you are going to stay alive, and even, Suraj, maybe next year or in 6 months we can again have this conversation. Okay, so I'm a positive guy. I would actually, in India, I very strongly feel that the negative statement is not because of COVID, it is because of the national lockdown which has been imposed upon us. had it not been there, the situation, would not have been so much bad. Okay, and this entire supply and demand both vanishing would not have happened here. So while there can be V cases and S curves and all kinds of, I think, curves will keep on coming in different countries, because nobody knows, and hence they are applying different methodologies to solve the problem. Okay, but I think we every 100 years or so there is a pandemic of this nature, and from a million human population in, I think, when Jesus Christ was born, we are at 8 billion now. So I'm not worried. I'll be very honest. I'm not worried. Okay.
You are being very brutal, Amardeep.
And a very controversial statement to make, yeah.
You're saying let the 5% go.
It's okay.
No, mathematically, I think Amardeep is right. Because
in US, there is a term called boomer remover. There's a term now called boomer remover. Please, Hitesh, please.
No, I think you're right, Amardeep. I think, but the challenge is that COVID has brought in a lot of. I think, Suraj, you can mute it. The COVID has actually brought in a lot of opportunities also, and there are a lot of sectors which were not existent have actually jumped up. A lot of I was looking at Ruchi Soya as an example, which has increased by 1700%, and was under NCLT. So I think a lot of great stories have come up. But I think, see, there's one part of resilience and correct and being ethical and being positive. It's very difficult to stay indoors. And I think look at the people who are crossing borders as we are sitting in the comfort of our homes. So there's massive humankind level mayhem happening across the world. Like now is a time where you can call anyone in the world and they can't say I'm busy. Like at least they can't say for the full day. So, but the challenge which is real is that people are indoors. People are worried. Not for themselves, for their parents, for their peer groups, for a lot of other things. And while 5% is a small number, I was told that there's a probability of 4% collapses or while you're crossing a road also in Delhi. So we're not that far. But the challenge is that it's something that has actually changed the way we live our lives and is not here to go. Like, I don't know when the next time you will be comfortable stepping into an aircraft or a PVR. And this is real. This is no longer just about a behavior pattern changing. And startups have seen the brunt of it. A lot of them on the receiving side. A lot of them are the giving side. If you look at EdTech, and I'll not name names, but the names are all out there. I know a lot of them which were almost on the verge of, the classic equation of LTV more than cost of acquisition not getting achieved. And now it's there, and it's running all over the place. And I think I'm seeing a lot of conversations in the hallows of the investor community that is something which will immediately sort of pick up. So that's a positive side of it. We all are smiling. It's been 45 days that we have actually not seen sun properly, and we are close to our dear ones. They are actually poking us. They are seeing us more often than they should. And a lot of socio-economic behaviors are coming out which were never visible. So I think these are great times, and this kind of conversation will not be possible, Amardeep, once COVID is over, because we'll not be at peace and we'll not be without calls and without anything. So I think we are all okay. This is real situation, and Amardeep, I think this is time to take decisions. Startups who are not able to cope up, they are human beings, right? And they are mortalities and there are closures. So it's not like it's a taboo. I think the very big realization which founders should have, especially the first-time founders, is that it's okay to call it off, because I think that's extremely critical. Equating calling off to a failure is something which has been discussed multiple times, but I think it was all over the air. There were a lot of these researches done, but it was never so real as right now. So I think the message, at least, which I would like to give to a lot of peers who are founders, who are grappling with the societal expectation and the ethical aspect of paying their employees and not being able to say no to them, but at the same time grappling the stress of doing it on a daily basis. I think it's okay. It's okay to take a call. It's okay to get on a call with all your employees and tell that I'm struggling. If there's something which can come out, great. If it's not, I think take a break, take a call, and I think just go on, because life is way beyond these jerks. And I think There was researches done that all the pandemics have created the best startups in the world, but have closed down way more than them. So if it means that you have to wrap up and start afresh, if it means that you have to pivot, if it means that you have to follow the COVID curve of taking a 90-degree, then do that. Stay positive, and I think success is relative. Success is not something which you can control right now. There's way things happening beyond your control. So stop giving yourself the problem pointer on yourself. And I think there's a lot of support out there. Talk to people, and I think talk it out, and that's very important. I think, and talk to employees, talk to people, and don't feel that it's wrong. It's okay to take a decision, and that's my humble submission.
No, I think
Thank you
there
so
are
much.
guys, I mean, I'll take the privilege of being much older than the other three of you on this panel to say that, like, well, Amardeep talked about killing off people and Hitesh is talking about killing off companies. It's true, guys. I mean, please understand that. I mean, I have a favorite quote which says the best way to predict the future is to create it. And what Amardeep said is that I think a very important point he made. We were already in the middle of a demand crisis, as all of us know. I mean, whether it was the automobile industry or the apparel industry, I mean, it was becoming very bad towards the end of 2019. Today, we are in this classic supply-demand band. Because even if supply starts, I was talking to one of my very important industrialist friends. He said, "Look, I'll open my factory here. After 2 days, the finished goods warehouse will be full because there's no supply, there's no demand chain. The distributor is shut, the stockist is shut, people are not buying. What do I do?" So I'm saying we have a real problem. So when I said the best way to predict the future is to create it, I would strongly advocate what a lot of people are saying. Let's open up the economy. Let's have trust in people. Let's ensure that people understand the value of washing your hands and social distancing and everything else. And if you don't do it, and 5% of the population contracts COVID, hopefully some of those will recover. But I'm saying we have to be prepared for it. But by dying, death of worrying, not being able to pay salaries and dying, that death, to my mind, is worse than a death that might happen because of COVID. So I think it's important to open up. It's important to start demand. It's important to then step up supply. Of course, we have this big reverse migration problem that's happened back to rural India. So we are in for a 1-year problem. So if you're a startup, I would totally agree with Hitesh. Take it on the chin. I mean, if you don't think that the next 1 year of troubles you'll be able to withstand, let's close down now. But if you feel that
So,
going to make that change, absolutely.
Ganesh, I would like to ask you here that out of the topic basically, but how India is going to cope up with this supply and demand chain, okay? Because that is very critical. Our dependency on China products and everything is going, and many companies, industries has been exposed also into this thing. So how India is going to cope up with that? Would you like to put some highlights?
Probably one of our best economists that we've ever had, Raghuram Rajan. Raghuram Rajan said that. He said, look, tell the RBI to print money, monetize the economy, put enough money. I mean, put 5,000 rupees per month into everybody's bank account, not yours and mine, but everybody who needs it. And I mean, I don't know if you know, in a state like Jharkhand, 90% of the people are in that category where they can use 5,000 rupees per month. I mean, Jharkhand may be an extreme, but it's 60% in Maharashtra. Okay, so the point I'm making is it's important for us to monetize the economy. It's important for us to make people feel that, look, somebody will, like in the US. I mean, US, nobody feels that they're going to die of hunger. In India, today we're talking about, I mean, probably close to 15 crore people are worried that they might die of hunger. I mean, people are really, really worried. I mean, Ahmedabad, for instance, I mean, if they really implement only milk and this thing available, I mean, even Ahmedabadi Gujaratis will worry whether they'll die of hunger. I mean, so we have a real crisis on our hands. And the only way to come out of it is to get demand back to work. That's what I'm saying. Here we are worried about, okay, we'll open up and supply will start. Everybody's saying, oh, let the IT industry start. Okay, boss, the IT industry can start, but don't forget we employ less than 1% of the population. The real problem lies outside the IT software exports industry. And those have to have demand and then supply. Supply means supply chains, demand means demand chains. The whole economy has to crank up slowly back to life. And we have to be prepared for the consequences, because the future consequences of not doing that can be truly disastrous.
Thanks, Ganesh, for the insights. Okay. So we are actually running out of time now. Okay, only 7 minutes left. I would just ask you for 10 more minutes after that. Okay, because my questions are there in my document. Okay, so I would just going to ask Amardeep. Amardeep, you have been part and built many e-commerce startups as well. Okay, so what do you think? What is the impact of COVID-19 on Indian e-commerce industry and startups?
So a few things there, Suraj. I feel that e-commerce industry is among the biggest gainers of this entire e-commerce and all the digital kind of industries. They're among the biggest gainers of this crisis. This is like a watershed moment for them. This is what they were waiting for. Okay, and not in the sense that but this adoption of digital with this forced adoption, and if this stays for a while, then it becomes a habit. Then people actually genuinely do not, like as Hitesh pointed out, people do not want to then go out to a PVR and so on and so forth, or they want to go out PVR to a lesser degree and so on and so forth. Now so all the e-commerce companies, and that is one thing which is kind of bound to happen. uh, I would I would say a couple of more things on the importance of demand from. So one is that the moment the opening up of the economy happens to a larger degree, demand will pick up because humans for their survival need a few things. Okay, so demand will pick up. From a company's perspective, I think it is very critical that they should not stop marketing. A lot of companies, apart from one area which is employee and this infrastructure, people are going down on that. People are also going down on marketing. I'm seeing a lot of marketing freezes happening everywhere. Okay, I would say that please go frugal on marketing. Please use things like CRM. Please use things like email marketing, WhatsApp notifications, social media marketing, webinars like these. But please do not stop marketing. Okay, the moment you stop marketing, you actually stop the possibility of tapping into the demand which will get created. And this is the right time. And those who can afford, I would strongly recommend them to build a brand right now, because a brand built right now will have much higher chances of, of a recall, because right now the noise is less. People are not talking, brands are not speaking, the ad slots are not filled, the Google CPC rates have come down. This is the time to build that. I think that's very, very critical. On
If
the
I just jump in for a minute, I think I completely agree with what, I mean, in fact, there are two very important connected points that Amardeep and Hitesh made. But Hitesh talked about nobody is so busy that he doesn't have time for one chat. I mean, I found it myself. I mean, there were some 15 guys we wanted to talk to. Last 1 year, we've been told, we're getting voicemail, say that my secretary will call you. But suddenly you write to the guy saying, somewhere in the next 10 days, can you give me 20 minutes of your time? Everybody says yes, because people are also wanting human contact. And what Amardeep said is so correct. I mean, if you can invest now in digital marketing, invest now in making those calls, you build those relationships in the slowdown or in the lockdown or whatever you call it, which will really stand you in good stead in the future. So do not cut down on selling and marketing efforts. Completely agree.
Sure. Suraj, any more questions? I think I'm at.
Yeah, let's talk about the e-commerce thing. You didn't answer on my question that
Sure.
what is the impact on e-commerce, because you have been part of such e-commerce startups. Okay.
Sure. See, on the e-commerce bit, the other part now, which is worrying, is the whole supply side of it. Okay. Now, especially say with the delivery companies, people have to deliver. There is a contact, and all that is kind of going to play. Please understand that a lot of people who want something, to be given to them, is more on the side of whether how to find these people to actually go and deliver. And this is going to affect not just India but global supply chains for a while. And this is where the opportunity for new startups to actually introduce more and more technology there. And this is the right time when e-commerce companies will be ready to adopt that technology. So drone deliveries, people have been talking about it for a while. I think this is the right time to actually implement it. The chances of your drone getting stuck into something is pretty less now. There is nothing outside. Okay. So I think one needs to actually start thinking about these areas. A lot of people, a lot of startup entrepreneurs, they need to actually think of the innovation which is needed right now and which might stuck for a while, if you're able to create the right solution. and supply chain is going to go through this disruption in a huge way.
Thank you so much. Hitesh, one question from Manish to you. I'm just reflecting that on the screen.
Yeah.
This is the question for you that don't you think this can be opportunity to think BHAG big?
Oh, absolutely. This is the time where when sort of Amardeep was saying that the CPC rates are, so the context is very clean right now. The environment is devoid of any aberrations. So which means that it's a great time to build. Building a brand is a massive sort of exercise. I will say that maybe yes, but it's great time to build context. Right now, I always used to say that there's a typical exposure to about 250 channels in a day of communication. That's a lot of channels for about 3 or 4 active hours of you listening to them, which means that the adaptation to get responding to them is by a consumer is extremely low, which means that all the using the typical jargon and communication mechanisms, the LTVs are going off the roof. Actually, the cost of acquiring is going off the roof. LTV is actually getting down, and the resistance for a consumer to move from you to your peer group is all-time low. So if you happen to be in a situation where you can be at the right side of the supply demand and of the consumer journey, then this is the time to go ballistic. Your cost of acquiring users is all-time low. Your ability to create a differentiation and hence a brand is at all-time high, and it's extremely convenient. So if you are a OTT player, if you are a EdTech guy, if you are digitally orienting yourself, if you're a brand who wants to showcase its digital prowess, if you're an e-com who can actually suffice the supply, and if you are any of these, then I think if you're not spending right now, then I don't think you are actually a startup. You're just a offshoot of something way more, because if this is how we have all seen, all it takes is one transaction, one turn, one opportunity. It could be something as simple as Uber going only with Paytm to start with as a wallet. It could be something as complex as demonetization happening. It could be something that the government opening up. Okay, you can actually ship out medicines on our own, or it could be something as right now. Like right now, there's no conversation on discounts. There's no conversation on timelines. There's no conversation on service levels. The conversation is on just the closure of a loop. So if you can close the loop and you can do it faster and slightly better, you're not at a pressure to reduce prices. You're not at a pressure to create abnormal supply-demand ratios. You're just looping the closure of something the consumer is asking. So my answer is, if you are happening to be in a situation where macroeconomics are in your favor or neutral to you, then this is the time. Like if you have dollars, spend it. Be judicious, obviously, to the plans for the next couple of months, but just go full hog.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hitesh. And so the final question and final round of discussion, I would say, I'm going to ask you a very common question, which actually every youngster thought about and thinks about, that despite having the sharpest minds, and we have also the CEOs from India in all the global large enterprises. Okay, why India failed in innovation? Why aren't we able to create something like Google, Facebook, or Microsoft? Where is our Ellen and Mark? And especially from the innovation sector, okay? And after also, I'm adding one more question to it, that is it too risky to opt for entrepreneurship right now? And your tips to the young entrepreneurs, okay? I would like Ganesh to start with, okay? And one by one, you guys can take over. Please, Ganesh.
Yeah, you're talking to a former chairman of NASSCOM, so let me first give you the party line. Okay, first of all, we have to be very proud of the fact that we've created a $160 billion services industry, employing 43 lakh people, 55% global offshoring market share. So let's not forget that. Because, I mean, in Israel needs products, because where are the people? India needed to create people-oriented. Today, why is every chief minister saying, "Kal se IT khulega"? because I mean that is their hope, man. I mean that this in the industry that has saved the blushes for so many states will continue to do that. So I'm saying let's be proud of what we've achieved in IT services. Why did we not create, and again to your point on innovation, see, innovation is not just creating new products. Innovation is process innovation, innovation is business model innovation. We've seen that happening time and again. One of the clients whom I'm advising today has come up with this complete cognitive contact center model, which they're introducing in a couple of months. That will blow the minds of people, but it will change the way calling works around the world. I'm saying this kind of innovations of business models is happening all the time. Let's talk specifically about products. I mean, there was an iFlex, which all of you know, which got bought by Oracle, which is a world-class financial services product. People like Banks 2000, Infosys, all of them are doing great products. Okay, it's housed within a services company. Look at Sridhar Vembu. I mean, what he has created in Zoho is, I think, absolutely fabulous. I mean, today, of course, Salesforce.com has huge market share, but here is one company, Zoho, which has done absolutely phenomenal. So there are many, many companies which are doing that. Okay, there are many companies which underinvested. See, the other problem we've had in India is we've always had very skittish investors. Okay, not like Silicon Valley or not even like London and Singapore and Tel Aviv, where people have been putting big money behind it. I mean, even today, I mean, you look at, I mean, everybody talks about, oh my God, look at this great Facebook and Mukesh Ambani deal. If you think about it, I mean, Reliance Jio, I mean, has a phenomenal 400 million customers, man, unheard of. They get a market valuation of 67 billion. And we think, oh my God, that's so much. Compared with Zoom. Zoom today has a $200 billion market valuation. For what? I mean, you see the difference? Because an American investor is willing to bet 20 years into the future. But when you come to India, we always underinvest. So people have been underinvested. I remember when I was just starting my career, Wipro had launched a whole series of products, you know, like very similar to, in those days, WordStar and Lotus 123, and they had their own suite. They had to shut it down. They didn't get enough money for marketing. So the problem is not Indian ingenuity. The problem is not creativity. The problem is not innovation. The problem is, can you get enough money, enough investment to make sure that you can scale marketing? Microsoft never has the best product in the pipeline, but it has the best marketing muscle to be able to kick out the Netscape navigators and make Explorer #1 and so many and so on and so forth. I mean, even Microsoft Word kicked out everybody else. I mean, Microsoft Excel kicked out everybody else because the pure force of marketing of those products. So I think that's been our problem. I'm hoping in the next wave, I mean, we will see at least, I mean, I'm very active in the NASSCOM Product Council, and I know there are at least 40, 45 companies who have great concepts. We have ourselves invested in a company called Skills Alpha, which is one of the best digital platform for EdTech I have ever seen. Of course, we were involved in the AI part and the career management part, but all these products are waiting to hit, and I think they can be great. So I'm an optimist. I think the future will be as much products as services, but don't decry what we've all achieved in services. It's been a great story, and it's made India proud.
I'll add to that. We are not shy of innovation. We have been extremely shy of communicating that innovation. So, adding to what Ganesh mentioned, one, I think a thought process went from services to product, whereas I think because of sheer genesis in a Tel Aviv or a valley, it actually worked the other way around. They thought that we could make products and we could outsource everything else. And we thought that when we have so much to insource, why do we invest in products? And I don't think it's right or wrong. It's just about the economy, how it's growing. And we have been poor with brands, let's face it. So we have, right from a Sarvana Bhavan versus a McDonald comparison, from a Infosys versus a Tesla comparison, we have realized that we have not created larger than life brands. We don't aspire to wear Indian. We don't aspire to, buy Indian gadgets. We don't aspire to, and it's not right or wrong. It's just about how we have sort of invested in the right places. I don't agree fully to Ganesh when it says that it's just about marketing. I think it's about thought process also. So if I had $1 and I could pay 80 cents in marketing versus 80 cents in a process development, nothing is wrong or right. It's just that something results in a $200 billion valuation for Zoom and something gets a $60 billion for Jio. And numbers are never wrong. And I think one more interesting thing is that they are no longer US investors and India investors. They're just investors. So, like almost everyone has got common LPs, they've got common investment processes, goes by Virgin Island, comes to India, comes to Singapore. there's a struggle for developed economies to get startups now. So if you look at Europe and Singapore, etc., now they're struggling for the new wave of startups to actually use them to geographies, because their biggest assets are becoming biggest liability. The cost of living has gone up. Silicon Valley has become the most expensive place to live, etc. So I think innovation is there. Zoho is a phenomenal example. I've seen products which have, in the SaaS space, we have done tremendous work. We have not gone all out to make the second wave. I think there are a lot of startups now, and I would definitely like to talk about people like a Cult Fit, people like Ola, who have done a dramatic shift in the thought process, where the processes are pretty streamlined, and they have invested in something which is called the persona creation. Unfortunately, they're both on the receiving side, and a lot of them are on the receiving side right now. But I think they'll come out, and they'll come out well. A lot of Indian companies going to Dubai, going to US to set up offices and create ripples in the ecosystem. I don't think you will be able to ask this question in a year. That's my feel, because I think the change right now which we are seeing will result in those kind of absolute staggering numbers of investment. We are seeing those billionish investments happening. So I think the net result will come out to be extremely positive.
Yeah, final statement from you, Amardeep, okay? Because we are running out of time, and then I'll give viewers 5 minutes of time to ask you guys questions if there are any. And then, yeah, please go ahead, Amardeep.
Sure. So I kind of agree with Ganesh to a very great degree that IT services is one area where we are probably world's number one, and we should pat ourselves, pat our backs more for doing that. It was not easy, and but we somehow did it, and it's a reality. Okay. So let's not kind of. I would actually, your question has got a few parts, and I have I've got some strong views on this, that why India is not able to produce, say, and I would say that
Amardeep,
it has,
can you be a bit louder? I think your voice is one.
yeah. So it has a bit to do with the kind of startups and startup founders which we are investing in. And if you see, the game is last 15 years when this startup investing has started happening, and most of the startups have actually followed the template from US, that they would like to invest big in startup founders who are who are kind of young, who are less than 35 years of age. That's the idea, and predominantly they are like between 25 to 30 years of age. And I have had this debate with a lot of people. Now, if you see carefully, a lot of these people who become CEOs of large companies, they are almost always above 45, above 40 or 45. Okay. And whereas you make somebody CEO of a $200 million company or a $500 million, because that's the valuation. So you actually believe in it, right? So you make somebody a $200 million company ka CEO, which is actually in a much tougher situation, an Indian guy, and assuming that he would behave like a Mark Zuckerberg. Now, this is where the problem is, probably, okay? That in India, people probably mature, because to run a startup of a size of a $500 million or $1 billion, you need a certain kind of maturity to actually look at multiple things at the same time. You should be able to look at processes, you should be able to look at demand, you should be able to look at a lot of human aspects, and so on and so forth. Okay. And that probably has been one area which actually people are learning by burning their hands, because the idea was that if there is a Expedia.com, there needs to be a Make My Trip here. So the Expedia.com founder, similar guy, we should try and make him here. Now those are mostly tech guys outside in US, so people first started experimenting with a lot of IIT guys, and that didn't really quite work out very well. So they said, okay, fine, let's try it with IIM guys. So that also didn't kind of. So now I have made investments in a couple of gaming companies. Now, one criteria which I used was that the guy should be close to 40. The CEO needs to be close to 40. If he's not close to 40, I'm not going to put in my money, no matter how good the idea is. And my investments have done exceedingly well, just by making a little change, because I believe that. Now, this is a very practical point which I'm making. The second thing which I see is that we are also fundamentally risk averse, and this has to do with our, we are a poor country. Okay, we have not seen, and we have not seen a lot of wealth. So our idea is to kind of get into startups and become CEO of Microsoft or CEO of Google is a much safer option rather than trying to create a this thing. And third point, I almost completely agree that this fear is not just in the mind of the startup founder. This fear is also in the mind of investor. So whereas somebody, say in Zoom, would like to put in a lot of money, and Zoom's idea has been beaten to death. There was Cisco, WebEx. I do not know how many companies are competing in that space. Okay, but somebody comes up and says that, you know what, I'm going to put in money in you, and I'm going to put in money in you, and I'm going to put in money in you, and he continues doing that despite failure. Okay, and not just one guy. People now dream of selling. I mean, used to dream of selling their company off to Masayoshi Son. But not just one man, but a lot of other people. They're willing to invest that kind of money. So in India, that's also the third thing, that investors they're also kind of trying to save pennies. If you truly want to build $1 billion or a multi-billion-dollar company, you need to be able to invest whatever it takes, and you need to be able to invest whatever it takes early on. So I think there are these three, four things. But I also believe that people are getting the right kind of mindset now, and we should see a lot of product startups happening now. Turakhia Brothers are big examples. Zoho is big example. A lot of other SaaS companies, CleverTap, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of companies, which are kind of doing well, have started doing well, and I think that's going to continue for now. And investors have also started understanding this more and more. So I'm very hopeful that more and more innovations will come out of India.
Thank you so much, Amardeep. Thank you so much for your insights on this question. I think I have asked viewers 5 minutes ago about the question. There are no questions at all. Okay, and I think the discussion went very, very good, and it was my absolute pleasure to talk to you, all of you together. Ganesh, once again with you. Okay, Amardeep once again. Hitesh, first time with you. Thank you so much for taking time for Sunday Shots, and I hope that you come into more episodes with me. Okay, with more guests. Thank you so much for your time. And it's
Thank you, guys. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you for 15 minutes more. Okay, thank you so much. Stay tuned, guys, for more episodes. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. Bye.